Warning: the following episode contains themes of infidelity, sex work, and domestic violence. Listener discretion advised.
You rolling with us. It's about the love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. Yeah, it's about the love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. You can't make a change unless you got the love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. You can't make a change unless you got some love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. We started from the bottom, talking about the roots. Every time I'm in the booth, I gotta shoot the truth.
Hey guys. Welcome back to the Boondocks Podcast. This episode, we're talking about Season 2, Episode 2, one of the most legendary episodes of this show, Tom, Sarah, and Usher. Quick synopsis. After a chance meeting with Usher at a restaurant puts a strain on Tom and Sarah's marriage, Tom turns to a pimp named Slickback to help rescue his relationship. But before we get into it, let's get into it, y'all. How you doing?
Hey. You described that perfectly. I would have maybe sang a little when you said Sarah. I maybe would have been like, Sarah, smile. This is definitely one of my favorite episodes. But so, ladies, how were you this weekend? How's life? Everything good?
Teaching online sucks. My governor is forcing me back, but I have my first vaccine, so that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You guys will be surprised. I'm getting mine on Sunday.
Oh shit!
Good. I'm proud of you.
They're the school he works at. They're doing it for all employees and their families. But then I just found out because I'm a cannabis entrepreneur, I was actually in the first wave. Like I could have that, yep.
Really? Oh, because
essential. I guess
because essential. They designated weed shops to be essential in a lot of states that had legalized weed. I didn't even think about that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it. If I turn into a zombie, you guys can take me.
Hey, I haven't yet. I mean, do you know which one you're getting?
The Pfizer.
Pfizer. Okay, so I had what was considered a very mild reaction in that about 24 hours later, I fell asleep and I could not make myself wake up fully for a good 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Like tried to work and was like dozing off as I was struggling but that's apparently a pretty common one. So make sure you're not planning anything for the day after.
Oh God. Okay. Well, my birthday's Tuesday, but I guess I cannot celebrate Monday.
You can totally still celebrate. Just don't drive a car.
No, I feel like you guys know me well enough to know I am totally going to celebrate. Didn't get to celebrate last year, and I forced myself to drink water these past few days, so at least I did that.
Smart. I'm terrible at that.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola gives me all of the water that I need.
Yeah, I was a beer and vodka this weekend. Yeah. So it was crazy. But I this episode, you guys have heard of, well, I know because Lindsay said it before, simps. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tom should have had a big ass t-shirt on that said that the entire episode. Very much so.
Well, I don't know. So let's get into this. We're going to get into this. Okay. So at the very beginning of the episode, the first thing right off the bat I noticed when I wasn't even trying to pay attention yet was how bored she looked sitting at that dinner table with him. And I'm like, oh, they're telling us right there that she's already pissed off. She's already bored out of her mind. She is not in a really great space for him to then have the biggest probably ego crisis of his life.
Very much so. Crying and shit. And it's funny because in all the past years that I've watched it and all the other times, I didn't notice that either. I noticed it this time. I noticed that, he's like, oh, we have such a great time together. And she looks miserable during that little montage, that they have. yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Usher, it might have been somebody else. So,
I thought she was wrong though.
I mean,
I'm not Team Sarah on this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was simping.
Oh yeah.
I think she was. I think they both were the two of them suck at having communication with each other so they know what's going on. That's a big one for me, because that's a big one for me in real life. And you know, it's just like Tom, every time we see Tom on the screen, he's nicening what's happening. You know, kind of that there's a part later that, because I want to go through the breakdown of the episode a little bit more, but there's a part later where he's like, oh, we don't need to do that now. And like, that's his whole personality. We don't have to talk about that. We don't have to think about that. Just let's be nice. Let's be fun. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. We look beautiful. We're a great looking family. I think everything's great. I'm, you know, in this nice professional job and everyone respects me, and I have a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter, and that's probably the extent of the introspection.
I mean, it definitely is saying something once more, like how we said it, you know, a couple episodes ago, we as we go in further and further, they start to develop the characters more and more. It's very obvious that he wants to be the farthest thing away from being considered a regular black man. He knows that he is. Yep. But he wants to be, he wants to be separated from that. So this just kind of shows you, and it definitely goes into the whole topic of, do black men get white women just completely as a trophy to make themselves feel better, or, to put a Band-Aid on, their emotional and self-esteem problems. And that's what I picked up on in this episode very much. It was like, oh shit. Like, I think she's getting tired.
There was a lot of little stuff.
I think she's getting tired of, okay, I'm not your trophy anymore. Like, this has to be more.
Yeah. I like that. I like how you said it that way. Like, she's bored of their life, and it didn't turn out the way that she expected. Did she, there's the possibility maybe that she was expecting a more stereotypically black husband. And so like the chance to like flirt with Usher was like just a little too much, which, by the way, Usher is the exact same age as me. Like, he's a couple months older than me. And now I'm looking back going, okay, there was a part where Riley was like, he like my age. And I'm like, fuck you, kid. I was like 26 when this came out.
Riley killed it this episode. I mean, just dropping bombs after bombs. Like, it's so funny. But his whole idea and outlook on it also let you know that from the eyes of an innocent child, it's telling you kind of what's going on, like the dynamic of your relationship. So it, very, very interesting. But I'm with you, Lindsay. I think she fucked up. I think this is where I had a problem with it. Don't have Jasmine thinking that Usher's her dad. And then just telling her dad to live across the street.
Oh, we are not even there yet.
I'm saying, like, it was definitely certain things that she did hilarious. That it's like, girl, I mean, if you were with a real, like, let's just say very, resolute black man. Yeah, you might have some problems. You might come home and he, got somebody else in there, tit for tat. So you never want to play that game too much, but very interesting. Like I said, watching this before in college and stuff, and I think we were just lit and drinking, and it was funny, and we really didn't pay any attention to it. So,
I mean, so just like literally just that opening scene, I probably would have done the same thing if a celebrity that I liked came over to talk to me and sing to me. And if I was bored in my relationship and that happened right there, I probably would, at that age anyway, we're talking about like the first time I'm picturing myself in that situation at the age I was, because Usher, same age. I never really liked his music, but I totally understand the fandom. It was, the same shit that we see over and over again, depending on how our entertainment choices present them to us. And Usher was Usher was always the boyfriend, or the sad lover, or so he was like everybody's dreamboat or something. Like that was how the media was trying to portray him. When we was younger,
I think it was like, Michael Jackson, but different. Very super talented. I mean, Usher could dance his ass off, and you can't.
Well, which is funny that Tom in the episode was like, not the only one who could dance like Michael Jackson.
And his pink freaking furry ass slippers. It's funny that they chose Usher. I mean, I was trying to think. I was like, he was really big at that time. This was, after he cheated on Chili, and You Don't Have to Call, and
I forgot about that.
Little John, that whole Little John era. That's all that you heard, was Usher. So, I think back and I was like, who else could they have put in there? Then I was like, that was pretty much it. Like there was no other R&B rap, kind of singer like that by that time.
They also referenced Usher earlier in season 1 when Reverend Ruckus was preaching. He was like naming off the N-words that everybody doesn't like, and Tom was like, yeah, I don't like Usher. Like he named it before, so we already knew that Tom had this predisposition to dislike Usher, and now his wife is fawning all over her.
I mean, come on. Every marriage should have a 3D masculinity. Every couple should have a 3D vibe. Like it's it just
no comment.
And I have mine, but I have 2 of them on there I shouldn't have on there anymore, because if you do meet them or talk to them, you're supposed to take them off the list. But I don't play that. I make my own rules up. So what was funny is that and it definitely the first scene, kind of going back to that, is it played an unhappy wife very well. Like when he started singing, she was embarrassed. She's like, oh my God, stop it. Where when at the beginning of their relationship, she probably loved that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But how many times did he do that thinking he was being cute and spontaneous every single time? Like, how many times did it take before she was like, don't do this again? Okay, we're doing it.
If she did. Because if she did, she didn't protest, I don't think, strongly and forcefully enough, which I think is also an underlying message that they are putting through.
Yeah. There's that communication piece again. He has no idea that she's bored out of her mind. He has no idea that she's annoyed by things. Like I'm anybody out there who has shared any space for the last year with a romantic or otherwise partnership, that it takes communication to actually survive together. So anytime in real life, anytime I see a relationship where there's an obvious communication break, it's like, how long are you two going to be together from this point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lindsay, I want to ask you, because I think the obvious is, obviously different ethnicities. So there are different ways of communication. I mean, not for you, Lindsay, because, you're not the Caucasoid in the relationship. But, it's always said that white women are much more, complacent and quiet, and they don't, voice their opinions, and they just kind of go with the flow. So
that was my mom's generation for sure. And I know she listens to this. She didn't say a word until I was old enough to start saying it for her.
Yeah. So I couldn't, and that's, I'm not saying it happened to your mom or anything, but that was the era when, dads had families all over the other side of town. You know what I'm saying? Like he had 3 other families. But, Lindsay, for you and your husband, do you find that there is a, difference? I mean, he comes from, a whole other area. Did you find that there was a breakdown or like a, just a miscommunication or, a lack thereof because of, ethnicity or beliefs or how you grew up?
Oh, absolutely. But we squashed it pretty much after we moved in. He's Italian. They bust balls. That's what they do. I am a black woman. You are a white man. Do not ever bust my balls.
I was gonna say he lost that real quick. That's why it was squashed.
Yeah, like we got into it like bad. We call it the crepe depression over eating a crepe one day. I don't remember what the fuck he said, but I straight up checked him and left. And I went to my mom's house, and she was like, "You moved in with him, so you go right back over there and fix that shit," which was very mature of her. And we did. We squashed it. That was definitely the make or break point in our relationship. And when I told him, like, yo, that shit's not cool, don't talk to me that way, he is very good in that aspect, that when there was shit in our relationship that we bring up and we communicate, he will change. He will 100% make the effort to change. And I, unfortunately, had to learn to do that, too.
Much harder for us, for us Aries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Much harder. But see, that's what... Same thing with hubby, which is what, one of the things that made me fall in love with him is that most people are, the idea is men don't communicate and they can't communicate and they don't want to. And that's just not true. Like you just said, and hubby, like very much, he would talk me to fucking death. And I'm like, good Lord, okay. But and which I'm sure is very funny to people that you didn't talk. No, I didn't about, things that needed to be talked about in depth. I learned from my parents, argue or don't talk to each other. And I didn't realize that was so embedded in me. But yeah, it's very refreshing when, the man doesn't give up and he's like, no, we're not going to play this game. We're going to communicate. I'm going to let you know how I feel, and you should do the same. I don't think that's a conversation that was had between, Tom and Sarah. So
no.
And if it was, he didn't hear
it.
He laughed and, watching cartoons or whatever he was doing while she.
Well, yeah, totally. Like, actually, so the next scene, I have a clip from that.
And this is where I put the rabbit ears behind his head. See, honey?
Yes, I see the ears. Don't you think your behavior might have been the slightest bit inappropriate?
Oh, stop being insecure.
You were flirting.
He asked me to send him the pictures. Tom, you know I'm a big Usher fan.
So is Jasmine, which makes sense because she's 10.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means you're a tiny bit old to be acting like some screaming TRL groupie.
Stop the car.
Now, we won't have any of that. Just calm down.
Stop the car!
Are you mad?
Okay,
like,
so.
Yeah? What made you think that?
Right. Like, I remember the first time watching this episode, I was like, did he not, wait, what? Okay. The language that he used against her is so fucking toxic masculinity. It's not even funny. Like, he was so insecure at the thought that she might be flirting with someone else that he essentially insulted her and then didn't think that it was insulting.
Yeah.
And
he only sees the wrong that she supposedly did,
Right. And that's even before I noticed the thing about her being bored in the beginning. Like, the first time I saw this, I didn't notice that. And I was like, how does he not see what he just did?
Yeah. Because he's too worried about being anally raped.
Anally raped in prison?
I mean, it's, okay, crazy over Eminem. Crazy over Justin Timberlake. And my husband is definitely listen to me fangirl. And his biggest thing was, go, you'll be back. Or Charlie Hunnam, love that man. But that's how that's how a man should be. You should be so secure that it's like, all right, well, go ahead. Because I know where you're coming back to. And a woman, as well.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. He just was all in his feelings. And, instead of letting her be exciting about meeting a celebrity, he just, it was all about him, So yeah, that was something men do sometimes. Not all. Not all.
I'm still Team Tom on this, though. Like, my mom taught me when I started dating, they have one time to disrespect you in public. One time. And then anything from that point on, it's a wrap. Like, you don't... And I have had, especially, I guess, maybe because my husband is white, I have had, handsome black men step to me on the BART, step to us at the club and try, I don't know, they do this weird thing of trying to, Mr. Steal Your Man or whatever.
It's Bay Area shit. It is yes. He told me the first time we went to the ball. So when we go here, they're gonna try to talk to you, and I'm like, you're holding my hand. He's like, that's just what we. No lie. Like I was like, oh my god, hey. But you're exactly right. And what did your husband do? I'm sure he was probably like, look the other way. You know.
Yeah, he doesn't do it. He never did or said anything about it. But I also don't entertain that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I just say, oh, thank you, and ignore them, or say, okay, thank you, and please move. You know, you don't buy into that, because think about it. Now reverse the situation. If you guys are at dinner and fucking Cardi B walks in and she starts, Dean, I love those glasses frames. You're so hot right now. And he sits and buys into it and is like, you know, joking and laughing with her, not for 10 minutes, but for the rest of your anniversary dinner. Me as the woman, I would leave.
Dean's not into that. Like, it would be more like Felicia Day or like a redhead with a Scottish accent with lots of tattoos. Like that would be.
What's it, Christina?
No, honestly, like. If it went on longer than I felt comfortable, I would say, hey, can we get back to dinner? Like, I would communicate that I'm feeling uncomfortable. I wouldn't sit there for the entire night and watch it. Like, that's on Tom right there. He didn't let her know that he was uncomfortable and unhappy. And did she not pay attention to his social cues too? Sure. But she was also bored out of her mind, and suddenly there's this excitement in front of her.
Well,
I don't blame her for getting excited to meet, you know, her favorite celebrity, and then, you know, maybe forgetting herself for a minute there and not realizing and taking his feelings into account. But he just sat there.
She set up.
She didn't say anything.
Woman's fed up, you know. They don't. You just go do whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing was,
right. She literally was like, "Oh, you're not going to say anything? Okay, I'm going to keep flirting."
But
then.
if he did say something, then we would be saying, oh, she got to meet her favorite celebrity, and I can't believe he was so selfish that he interrupted the situation. Oh, like, Tom is so fucking selfish. Like, he should. I'm with you guys. Like, that attitude is insecurity for sure. Like, you should try to engage with the celebrity as well and make that experience special for her, whatever. But I don't know. I'm not giving her a pass on this either. You don't do that shit. You don't clown your boo thing out.
She acted real Karen-like. I will say, you know, she threw a fit and she was like, I don't care. You know, I'm about to go and party with Usher or whatever. You know, hubby would have been like, Usher,
like the
where's
whole
the party
thing.
at? What you got? Where you know, like, oh, you can get me to the strip club. Like, that's exactly what he would have done. There's a lot of, you know, male podcasts. I would love to see or hear what they would say. You know, different perspective and how they would feel about it. Yeah, because at first I was like, oh, Tom, if you don't quit crying, like, oh my God, stop it. But just thinking about every aspect of it further, you know, that's how he showed he loved her. That's when, you know, you don't always know what you got until it's gone. I'm just full of song just references tonight.
Yeah. So after the car fight,
She made you look like a bitch in front of Usher.
Boy, watch your mouth. Probably started out charitable. She took you in, was probably teaching you how to read.
But Granddad, she did make Mr. Dubois look like a bitch.
Yeah, we all know she made Tom look like a bitch, but found a different way to say it. Next thing you know, you rubbing against that silky white skin.
But I don't know the non-curse way to say he got bitch. Humiliated, castrated, emasculated.
All right, I get the point.
I mean, I could see if it was a real nigga. If you lost your hold to T.I., I'd be like, hey, that's T.I. But Usher, you better check that hoe, Mr. Dubois.
like between Riley and Ruckus, it's just like the two weirdest takes on this.
Ruckus is such a perv, creeper, dude. Like, God dang, it's just that white silky skin, you know. I mean, good lord. But to this day, we say this. We say, "What? That's what's hot in the streets." Usher over T.I. We refer to that a lot, but that is it's very funny, especially with everything going on with T.I. and Tiffany right now. That we're watching this and
I have no idea.
It's crazy, but
Lord.
Yeah. But like I said, from the we won't really call Riley an innocent child, but just even in an 8-year-old's mind, like, nah, that's not right. Like, that's your chick, and she played you for somebody that, by all accounts, Tom is much more, oh God, what's the word I want to say? I don't want to say bitch-like, but he's just much more, not as tough. I won't say Usher is either, but who was going to take you and slam you and do all that and everything? Probably would be Usher. And I'm talking about slam you like good stuff up against the wall and, and grab you and, wrap your legs around. Like, that's going to be Usher, not so much a Tom.
Someone who's more likely to be dominant in the bedroom.
Yeah. Just that whole thing, and I think that's what she was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. She was looking for something a little more exciting. And like the advice that Tom gets from like, I have too many notes. Okay. So I find it really funny who Tom chooses to take advice from. Because Granddad has pretty archaic, like toxic masculinity version of what marriage is. Literally, tells him to make that bitch behave at one point. And the kids that actually. So when they told him, you should go and stand up to her, he went and stood up to her, and then he came crying back to them. And after he basically was like, can I stay here for a while? That had my next quit.
Thank you so much, Robert.
See, boy, see why I tell you marriage is bad?
I don't care what nobody say. I ain't never getting married. Statistically speaking, it was bound to fail anyway.
So the three people that he's basically listening to were like, marriage sucks. Yeah, marriage sucks. I'm never gonna get married. Well, half of marriages are gonna fail anyway, so why bother getting married?
And that's funny that those are his friends, first of all.
Right?
But it just lets you know, once again, message, Riley has this idea because Riley's like pimp player, thuglicious and all that good stuff. Where
he's got his own idea of what a black man should be,
and where Huey's like, look, he's very analytical about it, and I definitely feel like that's how he probably would go into a relationship. He would probably propose like, it makes more sense if we're just together. We can own a house and we can write each other, all taxes. It may not work, but hey, let's give it a shot.
I'm going to be completely honest, but like I imagine my headcanon for Huey grown up is monogamy in this economy. Like I see him as like a total like black bloc, anarchist, he's been at every Black Lives Matter march in the last 2 years. Shit. How long has it been Black Lives Matter? Is it 5 years now? It started with Obama.
Yeah, so a little bit long. Yeah, a little longer than that.
A little longer than that. So yeah, like that's my headcanon of Huey all grown up, especially like knowing he's just like, well, statistically it was going to fail.
I could see him being that. I could see him like being like a, firearm, like not so much a modern day Black Panther, but kind of. And I could see him like living on land and probably having more than one wife, maybe having a nice little,
right. That's why,
because he believes in, he believes
love is
in like,
love.
Raising the kingdom and, and been,
exactly.
I could definitely say that.
without the capris and headband,
yes,
neck wrap,
oh my God, and freaking Birkenstocks,
See, I think people like that who are very logical, when it comes to love, those motherfuckers tend to find somebody who fucks up their whole sense of logic and they fall head over heels and it just wrecks them.
Yep.
Yeah.
14 years last month. Because that was absolutely me.
Right here.
Again, I decided to break up with a boyfriend when he refused to brush his teeth. So, like, I've got that logical brain. And I usually have to talk myself into or out of a relationship. And my logical brain met, like, uber romantic dude here. And I was just like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
And unfortunately, what happens with that is that I think the person who is the one that ends up getting fed up, it's kind of human nature. You maybe start to walk all over the person, take advantage a little bit.
Yep.
And that's definitely what we're seeing here. Is I go to work. I'm a lawyer. We have this beautiful home. You take care of Jasmine. You take care of the house. And you just be that nice little trophy wife that I have.
Yeah. What kind of life does she have outside being Jasmine's mom and Tom's wife? What do we know about her?
You're right. You're right. And that Huey said her food looks gross. Riley. Yeah.
Like throw up.
Yeah.
Riley, yeah.
That's funny because that happens so often, especially as wives and mothers. You get to a certain point where you're like, I love those things, but I was somebody before that. And you have to kind of get back to, it's your own responsibility. It's not your spouse's. It is your own responsibility to do what you need to do to get back to feeling like, okay, well, I'm Sarah and blah, blah, blah. So, so forth. And I would love to, we don't ever see like a flashback of them, do we? I can't remember in all the episodes, but
I don't remember.
I don't
because I'd be interested
so.
to see their college, like their courting time. Like I feel like head over heels, she probably, followed behind him with her nose wide open, and then reality hit, after a few years. But on the new one, maybe you guys should do that. Just put that out there to Aaron.
Yeah, they went into kind of the backstory of all of the men at some point, or some kind of backstory. Like we don't know a whole lot about Tom, but we know all about his fear of being anally raped. So, like, what do we know about his wife other than she's his wife?
That'd be very interesting to expound on that, and that will let you kind of know a lot about how the relationship ended the way that it is on this episode. But yeah, I mean, not to get too far ahead, but the way that I think is like, oof, Jasmine is about to be out there. Like Jasmine's the whole idea of a relationship and who should probably look at, who should be attracted to is going to be the exact opposite.
Or she's gonna grow up being in love with always, the idealist that she can't have.
Huey.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I was sitting here thinking, oh God, I'm so happy I don't have a girl like she's real. But no, that's another thing that, as women and as mothers, we need to be accountable for. Fathers do as well, but especially for girls, like you set the standard of what they think relationships are, and, whether they're going to be treated right in future relationships or, they're going to be walked all over.
That was actually like a big point of communication that Dean and I had back when, the days were young, because like I said, my stepkids are now 18 and 21 and we've been together for 14 years. So I've been with them for most of their life. And the way that I always made a point to not be shy around their dad and to let them know how much I loved him. And he let me know how much he loved me. And like, we were very open about our feelings in front of the kids. We like, there came a point where Natalie was not treated the best by somebody and was literally like, I wish I could find somebody more like what we have. And yeah, I think she has, though. She's really, really happy with her partner right now.
That's good.
So,
yeah.
And then,
like you said, it really does. I love that you said that because we do the same thing, around our boys. My husband hits me on my butt.
You got to normalize what real love looks like and that it takes work, too, and not be afraid to, like, have the cry moments in front of them.
We've had some. And it's so funny because I have boys and they will be on my side. They come, are you okay? That did me now. I'm like, no, you guys don't worry about it. This is what happens when you are an adult and you've been together for so long. You have disagreements. And I told my friend this weekend, I don't know if we're doing a great job or not, because my 9-year-old wants to find a girl like me, like Dad had in college, keep her through college, marry her, have some kids. Then he's going to divorce her so that he can go to Hollywood and find a hot lady and yeah.
You got him watching like Second Wives Club or something.
Not at all. I'm watching Big Love. No, it's just he's a Leo. He's that Leo. But yeah, he always, asks us how we met. When he asked me recently, when did we first tell each other that we loved each other? And I was like, whoa, okay. I was like, well, we both have different ideas, different dates, but, and I can't help but to be very transparent because I think that's better. I remember my mom telling me stories and I think about it now and I'm like, she was lying. Right. My 12-year-old figured out the other day, he goes, wait, grandma and grandpa got married in June of 1977. I said, yeah. And he goes, and you were born in, and it never in all of my some years did I realize. I was like, my mom was freaking pregnant. I'm like, 'cause I was born in March. They got married June 25th. I was born March 23rd. So
it's like immediate, like right before or right after.
Yeah. So just things like that. I don't want my kids one day being like, what? That was their girlfriend, not their friend, or anything like that. Like just being honest. This is why we have, like I said, people trying to cancel Eminem now because that generation was coddled way too much. And not given the ability to have critical thinking skills, but also, good emotional communication. So I want to avoid that.
Well,
so much.
And part of it is the media they consume and how different, like the three of us are Generation X. Four of us, probably more. I don't know how old hubby and hubby are, but
I'm a millennial.
But like you're a millennial?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So like hubby makes so much sense.
Yeah, hubby is too, yeah.
All right. Well,
he's on the cusp.
Yeah,
he's
okay.
on the cusp.
I was a millennial class 1999.
Yeah, I think like technically there's like a micro generation that they say that overlaps the two, and that makes a lot of sense because a lot of my friends are within that age. Yeah, the exennial thing. A lot of my friends are within that like 75 to 85 as year of birth. So, but there's actually this whole thing going on right now. I know on Twitter, probably on Facebook too, probably in other places where, so apparently Fox News, they love crying about cancel culture right now and how millennials or Gen Z are trying to cancel everything important. And apparently one of their quote unquote news people, basically was like, Gen X, you can't let them cancel your childhood. And Gen X is like, basically everyone on Twitter is like, yeah, let's talk about rap. Let's talk about D&D. Let's talk about like basically every single thing that, our parents tried to cut out of our lives. Let's talk about the war on drugs. Let's talk about...
which was bullshit. I learned it from you, Dad. I learned it from you.
Oh my God, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Yes.
The next part was when a pimp named Slickback came back, and they did an intervention for him, which I thought was hilarious. Because after 2 days, but better get something happening because got to get out.
About the loser. Look, you got to get out.
After 2 fucking days.
Bitch dependency is no laughing matter. Addiction to a bitch can fuck with your friends, your health, and scary enough, even your money. It's a disease, Tom.
Wait, what was your name again?
Well, thank you for asking. My name is a pimp named Slickback.
Wait, a pimp?
Named Slickback, yes. Please say the whole thing if you would. Yes, that includes the a pimp named part. Yes, Tom, every time.
Look, Mr. A Pimp Named Slickback.
No need for the mister.
I don't think I need any help from someone like you.
And by someone like me, you mean a pimp? A bad guy? Huh?
Look, I'm not trying to insult you. I just don't approve of what you people do to women.
Oh, so I'm wrong. So I'm messed up. Well, which one of us is the one missing a bitch, Tom? You don't see me running around looking for a bitch. I know where all of my bitches are, thank you very much. Bitch, where you at?
I love that last part. Bitch, where you at? I'm making you money.
His mom. Oh, grandma. Yeah.
It's grandma or something.
I love that grandma. Grandma's about it. About it. I mean,
hell yeah.
I need all kind of merchandise with like a pimp named Slipback, or like Tom saying it or something.
A pimp named Slipback.
All kinds. I'm telling you, I laughed this entire freaking episode, like all the way through.
Seriously.
And it wasn't because I was just delirious because we had just driven 9 hours and hadn't slept. It was really good. But I wanted to pose this question, being that different kind of backgrounds and, and people that we're around. Did you guys happen to know of anybody that you look back now and you're like, that dude was a pimp? Much more out and prevalent, I think, during our growing up than, what these cowards do now. And they actually, are abusing women. So did you guys know anybody, like a pimp named Slipback?
No.
I didn't know. Well, I didn't know that I knew any pimps, but I knew a few girls that did sex work. I don't know the details of their experiences, so I can't speak on it. I don't know if they had pimps, and this is when we were in high school, so I'm pretty sure it was like through the high school somehow. But also, though, I grew up, like the neighborhood that I'm in, it's very, very white. But if you go like a mile and a half away from here, there's the state highway that runs right through the city. And I grew up seeing women walking up and down every day and never really thought twice of it. Like it wasn't, it just was, So I don't think it made too much of an impression on me when I found out that people I knew were doing that.
And Lindsay, you said you didn't know anybody like that, or?
Not at all. Like it was all girls Catholic school. There were definitely girls who dated for money. There were definitely girls who straight up hooked. But I didn't know any pimps, I have to say.
So the reason why I asked this question is because I'm not saying in all Black families, but usually there's an uncle, maybe an older one, or, one who has a lot of different girlfriends at the Christmases and the get-togethers. And maybe they're not the traditional, pimp in a way where they're putting them on the stroll, and I'm doing air quotes like you guys can see it, but kind of uses that mentality and that mindset that pimps do. Like, I can save you, this is where you need to be. God rest his soul, my uncle was that, okay? At his funeral about 6-8 months ago, I met cousins that I had no idea I had. Full-grown cousins.
I mean, technically, thanks to Facebook, I have gotten to know quite a few cousins. So the last time I was in Louisiana with my family, I was 16. And it was the last time I saw my grandmother before she passed away. And basically lost touch with most of that family after my grandmother died. Until my uncle ended up moving up here after Katrina. And then like Facebook, I've been able to connect with cousins that I had met growing up. And one particular cousin was like, so, do you know how many brothers and sisters I have? And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, so at last count, and his dad passed away not that long ago. My dad's youngest brother died a couple of years ago, but it's his son that's saying this, his oldest. And he's like, yeah, I think there was like 15 at our last, count. So you might get friend requests from random walkers. They're probably my dad's kid. And
wow.
I'm like,
well, that's how it was with my uncle. He had a wife, I would go spend the night over there and whatnot. And probably about 10, I started noticing like, they're not together anymore. But she, like my mom said, she loved his dirty draws. Seriously, she was there at the funeral, front row, with about, I'm not exaggerating, 25, 26 women behind, sitting, scattered about in the pews and whatnot. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Look. And I know that there was a couple that probably he could convince to get out there and make them a little money because they were also addicted. And unfortunately, I will say, my uncle knows that I love him to death. He was a little bit at that time too, but he just loved women, and his charm was crazy. The first time he met my husband was at my grandmother's funeral, and he grabbed my husband. It was like, "Ooh, you handsome," and kissed my husband. It's like kind of lips, kind of cheek. It was like, "You did good," and my husband was like, "I don't."
Facts at all. Those are not facts.
Yeah, that's very facts.
What was that?
That is not a true statement. I did not get kissed by another man.
Very much, very much. Okay,
That's it. I'm kissing you when we meet.
It's no difference. Armenians, other cultures other than ours. That's how they greet each other. So that's what he was doing. But I will never forget that. And like I felt like he was flirting, with my husband at that point. But that was just him. He was funny. He was loud. So I see how he was able to gather his group of women. But
the nerd in me is like his charisma was so stacked.
I remember him saying things.
Probably his dexterity too.
I remember him saying things like a pimp named Slipback, what he says, like his logic, kind of. So yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that if you guys knew anybody that was like, because I could look. A pimp named Slickback had some facts, okay? She was letting Tom know, there has to be, I'm not saying control, but you have to be the man in the situation. And I think he was telling him that's what she wants. That's why she's with Usher right now.
That is a great point, and also a clip that we have, I think.
Did you know that scientists now believe that some people are actually born with a genetic predisposition to bitch dependency, Tom?
And exactly when did you become a relationship counselor?
Well, sharing this pimp knowledge for an exorbitant fee is my way of giving something back to the community, Tom. I want to help you, Tom, I do. But I need you to help me help you.
Help me help you. Yeah, okay.
Now, tell me if you would about this bitch you have an unhealthy dependency on.
Could we please not call her a bitch?
Say it, bitch. Yeah. Yes, we've got to call her that, Tom. I'm sorry. After what she's done, not calling her a bitch would be disrespectful to you, and I'm not able to do that. Now, please continue, Tom.
Well,
best thing ever.
How both respectful and
completely, right? Completely. But he was also basically saying, man, get your balls. Like, have they dropped yet? Like, this is what we're about to do. I want Cat Williams to call me and just say all of the lines from this episode. Like, so fucking funny. But yeah.
I want him to come up with a good name for me. Like, what were the names of his latest?
Sweet Taboo. I like that.
Sweetest Taboo.
A Quiet Storm.
Quiet Storm. I like A Quiet Storm.
I realized last night, I was like, wait, those are songs. That is Sade, Sweetest Taboo, and A Quiet Storm is a song. And often a lot of the evening, dedication radio shows in urban areas. The Quiet Storm.
Yep.
But yeah, hey, maybe we should adopt names like that, and I like that.
Let me chime in on bitch dependency then before we move on. Because the reason I picked this clip is that bitch dependency is real. It is not gender neutral. And like what you're kind of saying about a pimp named Slickback dropping truth, this shit is not just agnostic to romantic relationships, y'all. All of the shit he was saying, like I almost picked the Quiet Storm clips where she's like, stop trying to make it seem like we need new computers. You better make that computer work. Because this is the same mentality that people use against you in corporate America. People use it against you in relationships, y'all. And it is all bitch dependency. Like, you need to have your own, be independent minded. I kind of almost brought it up earlier when we were talking about how you guys raised your kids and showing them how to be in healthy relationships. You have to be taught to not have a bitch dependency. Like the psychological term would be codependency, but it's bitch dependency.
I like that.
Don't be that.
I like that. I'm hearing E40 and Too Short. I'm singing that in my head right now. Because that's true. All hoes ain't women. All bitches ain't women. All bitches ain't women. Exactly. And you're right. But once again, he broke it down. He let him know, like, you are just as dependent on her as she is on you. But in this case, you are the one that's coming out looking like you need a talking to. That's what he was giving her,
Well, and it goes back to that easily suggestible thing about Tom. Like he after basically this speech, he goes on to be like, okay, all right, you're making sense. I should listen to you. And like he gets basically lessons in how to be more masculine and stand up and take charge of his wife. And like that's basically what is happening with those Slickback quotes. A pimp named Slickback. He's feeding him this information. He's feeding him this information, which is so very against anything that Tom has ever done, but yet it's so easy for Tom to go, okay, I can try that. Like, he has trouble saying the word bitch. And then, in the next scene, he's saying the word bitch.
Which is horrible.
Quickly.
I'm sorry. Like, okay, I'm not going to say that. We'll save that for Patreon. But, yeah, right away, we saw what he thought of, I'm better than you. What you do is wrong. He's basing it off of like Superfly and just, shit like that. Instead of him thinking,
all of those blaxploitation movies. Yeah.
I assume he's older. So let me go ahead and take some advice from, somebody who's done this before, or who's been where I'm trying to go, even if I don't see myself on his level. But I think that, Mr. Slickback, he broke that down. He let him know, like, nope, I'm in control. You're going to take this advice from me because you need it. So that was, I feel like I want to watch the episode again.
Like in the very beginning, right? Remember Sarah tries to get him to have that extra glass of wine and he's like, oh, I can't do that. I'm the DA. Can't be drinking and driving. Or like how he wouldn't say, I feel like he's one of these people, which I know this will take us into a whole nother spiral. One of these people
that's okay.
Who decides who they are. Like, I am this character. I am going to fill this role and I am not going to deviate from this role. So he's decided he is the law. I follow the law. I don't misbehave outside of what a DA would do. I can't call her a bitch. I'm a district attorney. Like, so when it comes to that character, he can't be swayed. Oh, I can't do that. But I mean, yeah, we do see him break a little bit. But
I mean, that's a good point because, like I was saying, I used who I dated and whatnot as my, what made me feel validated. How many times has he said he's an attorney? How many? He's not talking to me. I'm an attorney. So definitely,
it reminds me of. I can't remember the name of the show, but a friend of mine turned me onto it in the pandemic because we watch everything on Netflix now. I think it was a Canadian show, and the main character went to Harvard, and he says it every chance he can. I went to Harvard, and as a Harvard grad, and when I went to Harvard, and that's kind of like Tom with being the DA. I'm the DA. I'm important, or I'm the assistant DA, or whatever it is. Like, he wears it like it's a Halloween costume.
Are you talking about AP Bio?
Because if he does, he'll...
AP Bio?
What was that?
Okay. Well, he says all the time on there, too.
That's definitely not. But, that's a joke that's come up in other things, too.
From The Office, which is one of my favorite shows. Cornell? I went to Cornell. And Andy is the biggest nerd ever. But that was his thing. He's like, oh, I have to be smarter than you. So, yeah, you're right. Like, that's your, that was really good observation. See, Lindsay, you see? Now that goes on Lindsay's list. No, but that is, that was his past per se. And he lives this facade. And when that happens, your life starts to fall apart at the seams where you don't want it to, like where it should be the strongest, which is in your relationships and your home life. But because you are, living, just being hella fake, this is what's happening. Like, it showed you how possibly weak your marriage is. Because she could be taken real quick by Usher,
Well, if he thinks she can be taken real quick by Usher, that's a perfect segue into the last scene where Tom just found out from a pimp named Slickback's women that his wife had planned to meet up with Usher at this specific hotel, and so he rushes over there, and basically like he can't bring himself to hit his wife, but then he's gonna hit her, and then he smacks Usher.
And you're right.
And that turns into all of them kicking the shit out of it.
Like that was like, whoa. Did you really just let out that?
I rewound that over and over again because it was just so fucking funny.
Oh my God, Usher, you got to hit those notes. Like just saying, like only when you sing. I thought that was funny. It shows you that he had a little progression, but obviously not too much because he slapped another man. Instead of going in there and you're not going to take my wife, knocking him out, with a nice hard fist or something, and then grabbing his wife and daughter and
right. So yeah, the first thing he did was grab his wife, which was something a pip named Slickback told him to do. And she's like, "Get your hand off me, Dolomite!" Like, she was totally playing into the blaxploitation thing too. I don't know about the like it at that part, but I think once she saw how Tom responded, she was like, "Oh God, I took this a little too far." Like, I think she was kind of playing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
To get his attention.
Yeah.
Exactly. She was bored out of her mind. And, then it ended up the way it did with Jasmine.
Yeah. Why was she there?
Out
that would have been a problem
crying,
for me as a man. Like, my daughter, why is my daughter here?
Well, that's the point. That the daughter was there because that was the plan, for Jasmine to meet Usher, not for his wife to sleep with Usher.
Usher thought that.
So all of this. Well, apparently, if he knew that he was going to be meeting the kid, like that, there is nothing in other than Tom's assumptions that make lead to her actually sleeping with Usher. She had like a fangirl moment. She probably gushed and said some stupid shit to Jasmine about, "Oh, maybe I'll just marry Usher," or something like that. That Jasmine was like, "Yeah, Usher's gonna be my new dad."
Don't talk to your kids like that. You do not bring them in there like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, to be totally inappropriate, I think we have to give it up for Tom. I'm over here having a Riley moment because Usher was a little bitch and he got slapped like a little bitch. And in doing so, it's almost like Tom took back his quote unquote masculinity in the situation by slapping a bitch. It just wasn't his wife.
That actually, that brings up something that I didn't even think of before, but how much of an asshole move was it for Usher to watch him sing to his wife and then walk over there and sing to his wife the same thing?
Yeah.
Like,
little bitch.
Like, that was bullshit. That was
and kind of
like now that I'm thinking about that, I'm like, that's what I would be mad at.
He cheated on Chili. We all knew that he cheated on Chili. That's what Let It Burn was about and everything. So not really foreshadowing. I think that was like a tongue-in-cheek way that they were like, "Look, we're going to go ahead and talk about how kind of inappropriate you are, when it comes to other people's property and your relationships and things like that." Like 1000%.
Yeah. Because it takes two to tango, takes two to flirt for sure. You can flirt your ass off, but if there's no reciprocation, it's not fun at all.
Yeah.
So he was absolutely like flirting with her, and she was just like, "Oh my God, this guy is a celebrity and he's flirting with me, and this is so much fun." With no thought of the consequences.
She was kind of like, I put bunny ears behind his head. Like, "Girl, are you 7? Like, yeah, it was like, what girl? But yeah, it was, I think it, like, if you really look at it, it definitely provides, other narratives, or the opportunity for you to have, another narrative about what the real, learning or lesson was from that. I still want to say that Tom should have took off his belt and just whooped Jasmine, though. And be like, "I am your father. Do you know that now?" Great. Okay. You're not going to send me across the street. When she's like, "Oh, this was not bad. Oh,
this is a nicer." Yeah, she was like, I just want Usher to be my dad for like a little bit. That's it. Just a little bit of time, Dad. Let me have this, and then you can move.
I'm going,
back.
"Girl, you living
It'll
over here
fine.
with me. If that happens, we're about to make a pallet for you right there on the floor. This will be our room." Up until this point, her dad was everything. You know, I'm saying to her he should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that maybe there was a little bit of respect lost. So it would be interesting to see if that grew to fruition, if she ends up being this little bratty, teenager that just doesn't have any respect for him,
I said, if it wasn't for you, Usher would have been my daddy.
Girl, go ahead, go right over there right now. We can make that happen. Usher, get her. Right?
You go right ahead. You go right ahead. He got money. You go for it. Go for it.
And also
you got money. And then come on back, because I know you will.
Did you guys think about that and tell me if you thought about, his whole herpes situation while you were watching this? Because I definitely did. Yeah, I would say she wasn't anybody that you thought Usher would bring up to the room after the concert, and she had receipts. And and she sued him. And then of course it was settled out of court, which that also means you're admitting it. But she showed receipts as far as like their conversations, him hitting her up and being like, my driver's coming to get you, and social media messaging and things like that. Like, why else was you talking to her? Was she making you a cake? No. Like, why else were you talking to her? So, and there was a couple other people that came out, but then they went away very quickly because I think he, got to their pockets faster. But it was after the time he married his manager. They were married, they had kids and whatnot, and then they broke up like out of the blue and had a very, 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 just contentious and turbulent divorce. And she was kind of, subbing and putting some stuff out there. That's kind of why Usher is not as relevant. But he does have a residency in Vegas.
Oh, see, I have not, I can't even remember the last time I heard an Usher song on purpose, let alone on accident. Like, I didn't listen to him at the time. I told you what I thought of him. I just thought he was like,
just there.
He was the romantic R&B singer that, like, I would hear the songs at like school dances, but I never I had no idea about anything about him. And
Usher can sing.
Well, that's why it all went so viral because this girl, she's beautiful, but she's like a really big girl. So everyone was memeing the shit out of her, clowning her, saying she was full of shit until she came with those receipts. And then everyone was like, oh, shit. Yeah, Quantasia. That was her name. And they settled the suit, her and a bunch of other people. Quantasia was the girl we're thinking of. There's other women involved, but Quantasia is the one you were thinking of.
Quantasia. All right. Well, there you go.
Good job, Usher. Good job. Sarah, do you still want that?
Hey, maybe he wanted something a little normal for once.
Let it burn.
Let it burn.
I think on that note, I might
mic drop. That was good.
Unless there's anything else you want to talk about from the episode?
No.
Yeah, because I think we went deep into kind of everything.
How about you? What do you think? Ready for that thing?
Welcome to Stupid White People Questions.
You mean I'm gonna stay this color?
We need that on the show. That's merch too.
You are the best. Fuck yeah. You mean I'm gonna stay this color? Fuck yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, that's I think I've said before, The Jerk is probably one of my favorite early movies, and that line every time gets me. I mean,
I have to admit
his mom is sitting there, brought him his Twinkie with the birthday candle in it.
So good.
Let's talk. Let's talk about a white person everybody loves to hate. I got this question from. As most of them are disingenuous Tucker Carlson questions that he has.
So if you are not a Fox News watcher, one of the things that Tucker Carlson likes to do is put like these open-end questions throughout whatever he's talking about, and usually it's along this line.
Mm-hmm. So, how can I be racist if I haven't said the N-word or burned a cross or hanged/lynched someone?
Yeah, because I haven't actually killed somebody. How can I possibly be racist?
What? Because you've had the thought. Like,
so. Well, it's not. It's not even. Well, God, it's okay. So there is. I love using the iceberg analogy for a lot of things, and I think this is a really good time for it too, because you've got the iceberg of racism, and at the very top of it, you've got things like lynching. And, underneath it, all of the things propping it up are racism, not just lynching at the top, but like excluding minorities from housing or from getting bank loans to open businesses or making sure they can only buy property in certain areas the schools only get their money from property taxes, so we make sure that the properties in this area, those property taxes are less and less because they're terrible homes. So then you're going to get a terrible school, and there are so many things underneath that top layer of racism that it's just ridiculous to think that just because you haven't said the N-word, that somehow you are excused from every single other thing that is encapsulated.
That is a damn good example. Like, that is a great explanation because that's completely true. We were walking into Big Lots the other day. Didn't even look at this lady. Didn't even know you were sitting in the car. Do you know that she just locked her car and was like looking at us? And I was like, bitch, if I wanted to do something, I would have been in there already. But I don't want you in your raggedy car. Like, I could not believe it. What made her think that we were going to do something to her walking into Big Lots? It's that type of situation, that type of thought is what makes you racist.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the best way to answer this question is honestly to do a round robin. And I think everyone on this call can participate and just go around and list off the ways that people can be racist without burning a cross or hanging someone. I'll start. You can ask a princess if she's concerned about how dark the color of her baby will be.
Right.
One of the things that I had heard was, it's like saying, how could I be anti-Semitic if I didn't take part in the Holocaust?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could still be racist without
and benefit from racist ideas.
And so it's not enough to be not racist. Like we said, you have to be anti-racist. So you got to call your friends out on that bullshit. Your family, got to cut people off sometimes. And as sad as that is,
because we were just talking about it, what you guys just said, I have a question. So, if you look back at the shows in the 70s and 80s, like, whoa, this whole not PC, that's a new thing, but that was how people were just honest, and how they talked.
So the big difference in my opinion is back then we were told we couldn't be offended about anything, and you just needed to deal with it. Like sexism that was to another extent because we should just deal with it. But yeah, I think I really honestly like.
I mean, PC culture originated from the Republicans all around the same time as like the NPRC, which the music research, the thing that Tipper Gore started off with, trying to get all that stuff. That started with, granted, Tipper Gore was a Democrat.
But she just come on, anything that sounded like good music, she's like, I don't like it.
And that started because of. For Prince, which it was.
It's almost like people have been singing about wet pussies for decades.
Go listen to Lucille Bogan. 1930s.
I'm gonna do 1930s. I love shit like that.
Yes, good. Lucille Bogan. Shave them dry.
The one because it makes you go like. Everybody's human. Like they was doing, that back then. You don't really think of. Any other era being sexual than like your own or the current times we're in. But that's cool.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble looking back and seeing, like, watching movies that I really enjoyed when I was a kid is kind of hard to do, not because the times have changed so much. Like I literally sat in front of the TV as a babysitter for a lot of the time, and basically I was fed that Family Ties, Silver Spoons, Different Strokes, like all of those primetime TV shows that showed like these happy families. Like I didn't get that, but I got to watch it.
Yeah.
So I took a lot of my feelings from that. And there was a lot of very down low racism, sexism, homophobia, trans jokes constantly. But like, listen, and watching it now, I cringe, and I try to make sure that I'm like one of the reasons for doing this show. There are jokes in this that did not age very well, and like Riley's humor, it still happens, not as frequently, but that humor, that toxic masculinity, you gay, that shit,
it was hilarious back then.
That is still the same, but it was hilarious back then. Whereas now it's like, okay, come on, dude, just find better vocabulary. Like, you don't have to use an aspect of somebody's personality or sexuality or whatever to insult them. Don't punch down,
that's what we did.
up.
And it's funny that you say, the blatant, just homophobia. And did you watch the show Soap?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, over the top.
Crystal,
like
right.
just, or the guy, the Lamar in Revenge of the Nerds.
TikTok, Celebrity Tic-Tac-Toe.
Hollywood Squared
Tic-Tac-Toe shows.
Hollywood Squared?
Hollywood Squares?
Jim J. Bullock.
Oh,
Jim
yes.
J. Bullock?
Oh,
yeah.
I love that
he was
show.
in a couple of shows playing straight, and even back then when I didn't really understand what gay was, I was like,
I love that show.
Women.
The dad had
it was
he had 2 daughters
he took over for Paul Lind.
Yes,
right.
yes.
That's another
who was the other
stereotype of a gay man in that time period. Like it was okay to be a gay man like that. Because that was funny and that was enjoyable and that was safe because you didn't think that would hit on you and whatever.
And even if they did, we wouldn't take it seriously because they were so funny.
But you didn't have women.
Right,
you didn't have
now,
women represented other than if it was in a movie and she was wearing, she had a mullet and, or something like that. And it was very brief. Like it wasn't focused on, there was no main characters as, God damn it. I have to think of that show now. I used to love that show. But he was definitely like, just out there.
So like there's massive nostalgia around some of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with having nostalgia and embracing that you loved something when it was problematic without, you can comment on its being problematic and not like have to I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole cancel thing is just so fucking stupid to me. I can't even say it with a straight face.
I mean, cancel. I mean, the way I see it, cancel culture is consequences. That's really what it is.
Right.
It's like
that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
Consequences is what's happening now. Cancel culture was boomers in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and the 90s.
Well, I'm talking about what's being referred to as cancel culture today is you're getting consequences for your shitty fucking
based
behavior.
on what you guys think should happen. And it's not always a good understanding. Like I said, I am biased because Eminem is my other husband. But with everybody, with this, they focused on one song. Well, Eminem has 1 million songs.
Yeah. Eminem is a funny case because like he was very violent toward his ex-wife and his mother, and like he had no shame about it too. He was like, no, what do you say?
Yes,
like, I killed Dr. Dre. I got him locked up in the closet, or
how
he
many
talked
men
about that shit all the time.
Feel like that. Have their heart broken. Their mom does them.
Right.
So yeah.
And then taking it 20 years later, completely out of context, is very different from like the people who are Dr. Seuss's people, his legacy, his family, deciding to remove 6 of his hundreds of books out of rotation because of racist caricatures that they no longer feel represent.
But I'm just like, how many of us grew up on that?
Like that's not canceling.
Like, that's fine because you learned your 1, 2, 3s.
Yeah, that's not a good. No. You said earlier about someone locking their door when they walk by you. I used to do that. I used to be that person sitting in a car. If I would see a black man approaching, I would lock the fucking door because that's what I was taught.
Yeah,
that's what media did to me. So it does fucking hurt when they do that shit. And the people crying about it now, they don't care about what it is that they're so mad about. They just want to be mad and find a way to blame it on other people.
I belong to this group.
You know, they want to distract from the real issues.
It's all, you know, all viral. It's all through social media. But you feel like you belong to something. And like, that's like belong to a movement that matters. You know, go after people that are harming people. Yes. Stop, you know, the girl from The Bachelor who, you know, cancel her because she went to a plantation, you know, themed party in college. Horrible, dumb, agree. But are you guys going to really ruin the girl's life? Like, never, you know, she's going to have a hard time getting a job. She's going to have things happen that based off of a dumb thing that she did going to a sorority or a fraternity party when she was 18 years old.
Lindsay, do you want to add anything to that?
Nah, these people are too rich. I don't give much fucks about them.
All right. Well, I think before we sign off, we should talk about the fact that we just recorded a 2+ hour episode, but most of you guys listening at home are probably only hearing about half of it. If you are a Patreon subscriber, there is now extra episode available for you. Extended episodes content. Where you can hear a little more of our ramblings. And hopefully you like this format because I think I do. If you want to be a Patreon sponsor, we would very, very much love it. It's you can find it at patreon.com/boondockspod. We have 2 patrons currently, Sarah Becca and Squirrel. Thank you, ladies. I love you both. And if you check out our Patreon, you'll see all of the fun stuff that we have decided to do for you. And we would love to interact with you more. So join our Discord and talk to us sometime. And if you're a Patreon member, you'll even get special AMA access.
I thought it'd be cool to do like a trivia.
That's right.
You know, a Boondocks trivia or something like that.
I'm
So
totally
I do want to just take a couple seconds to say that we've had some feedback as of late. And this is kind of what's spawning us to go in and start our Patreon and provide that, you know, kind of information and our content in another way. But I did want to go ahead and just be very transparent and saying if there's ever a time, you know, I'm being who I am and I'm expressing my opinions, and we all know everybody has an opinion and you may not agree with it. But what my opinions stem from are my experience and what I've gone through in my life. And you know, if I'm wrong, I learn from that, and that's what you're supposed to do. But if there's ever a time that there's anything that I say, any sentiment that I share, and you want to like have a conversation about it, hit me up. You can get my email. I'm more than happy to, you know, to have that conversation and to explain myself, and you know why I do what I do. So I just wanted to say thank you for the feedback. Both pieces of feedback that we received. But you know, I'm an Aries, and so my first thing was like, come at me, bro. But no, it's definitely a learning lesson. And I said, instead of you know, taking it in and making it and having it be something negative that fosters, I want to create the dialogue and, you know, understanding and, you know, hopefully new acquaintanceships and, you know, the whole lot. So
yeah. Well, and I think honestly, it spawned a good conversation with us more than anything else. I think that we figured out a few things that we wanted out of this podcast. And I feel like I said, I feel like what we did tonight, this format felt a lot tighter. I feel like we covered a lot more of the episode, but we didn't stray from the things that we chat about. We didn't talk about current events necessarily, because right now it hasn't been a slow news week, but it's slow enough in the post-Trump world that none of us felt the need to okay, we need to talk about this. So, I feel like even though getting feedback that is not wholly positive can be really frustrating, especially when it's something you're proud of, like this podcast. But I do think that it spawned us to
that's why
make
podcasts are so awesome, because people do learn by stumbling upon a, different and varying, opinions. So I do want to, say shout out to Lindsay's husband, because he kind of said, hey, well, have you guys ever thought about this? And, that definitely spawned the reflection that I needed to have. I had a nice 18-hour total little drive this past few days, and allows you to kind of just think when you're looking at nothing but cows. And like I said, I have learned from The Alchemist, you take things and you manifest them into what you want. And many times you want them to be something positive and something you learn from. So, shout out and keep listening, please.
Yeah. And just, a reminder for everybody, the opinions expressed by the hosts on this show belong to the hosts of this show only. We are not speaking on behalf of anyone or anything other than ourselves. So if one of us says something that bothers you, it's fine to speak out. We definitely appreciate constructive feedback. So please, be as kind as you would hope that we would be to you when we're answering those questions. And other than that, I really love what little interaction I'm getting so far with people, but the TikToks are hilarious. I'm really looking forward to doing more of those with you ladies. Long distance TikToks are
they're gonna look like, 3 Black women have created that, because I'm telling you, you have to be like under 25 to be able to do the shit that they do to make, the editing look so seamless and everything. But
yeah. Oh no. It ain't gonna be any of that fancy shit. It's gonna be old people TikTok, because I'm sorry, but I'm old and broken.
You guys can all laugh at me because I have been, doing Janet Jackson choreography again, watching all her old videos. I will send you guys a video of me and my friend trying to do our 7th grade routine. Doesn't work. But no.
Into it.
Yeah, so that's what's fun about, TikTok though. So yeah, you guys will, be seeing that. We can share a little bit of that. I think Lindsay's going to be fired. Like, she's going to go ahead and come on out and just be the star.
I don't know TikTok. Canceled.
And that's what we're ending on. That wraps us up tonight. Lindsay, I love you so much.
I do want, but before we end things, I do want to bring one thing up that we missed. I wanted to bring up at the top of the show, but out on Instagram, there's a couple of fellas who are creating the Boondocks the musical, which is due out at some point this summer. It will have original music and story, and it's a day in the life of Huey and Riley Freeman. And you can find the folks who are doing it at an Instagram at /the Boondocks the musical.
Yes.
The Boondocks the musical.
Yeah.
So go check it out. And they've sent me some pictures and some of the music that they're using, and it sounds awesome. So
cool.
Looking forward
to
maybe
we can get the
VIP
tickets, and then we can talk about it and review it.
Well, it's gonna be digital.
Even better.
So
yeah,
we'll have a viewing party or something with our Patreon patrons.
Or maybe we could have those guys on.
Not maybe, we will. We speaking positive, so we will. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, guys.
All right, friends. We'll see you next week.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I need you to get the hell up out of here.
Hey, thanks for joining us again as we make our way through the trials and tribulations of the Freeman family. We hope to see you back again next time for Thank You for Not Snitching.
Want to know where to find us on the social medias or where to subscribe to the podcast? Just head right over to www.theboondockspod.com/links.
Have a stupid white people question you want to leave us? Email us at host@theboondockspod.com or leave us a voicemail at 760-933-8636. That's 760-we-3-undo.
Shout out to the artists who've created our intro and outro tunes. Our intro is #MakeAChange by KIRK. You can find them on Spotify, iTunes, and Tidal. Our outro is Good Times by Audio Binger. You can find them on freemusicarchive.org and YouTube.